This is Empowered Youth, where generations come together to share the gospel and build God's kingdom through the next generation. Faith lived out, truth shared, and lives changed. And now, here's your hosts, Josh Mahshi and Chad Laurain.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Empowered Youth. I am your host, Joshua Mahshi, and this is your co-host, FBC Youth Minister Chad Laurain. But not only that, we have a guest joining us, Cyle Burkhalter. Cyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Josh. I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Chad?
Fantastic, buddy. How are you doing? That's the big question.
I'm doing really good.
You've had a really good day today.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Your best day, huh?
All right, so now for people that don't know Cyle, I mean, what's the history between you and Cyle? What's the relationship? How do you know each other?
Okay, so whenever I came to church, Pastor Jason took me and my brother to your Sunday school room. And there Cyle was raising his hands, answering every question that you would ask because no one else knew the answers.
And what did they call? Cyle? What did they call you in the Sunday school room? I mean, your sister let me know right up front.
Yeah, it was my sister.
She said, "Well, my brother gets here. You're gonna, what does she call you?"
She called me the Bible lawyer.
We can call you for anything you need.
We had some good debates.
Yeah, there were quite a few debates in the class.
Yeah. Now, would you say that there were times that Josh gave you a run for your money in the debates?
Oh, many times.
What's a run for your money? What's that?
It means I couldn't win. There were just times
it was
where
a hard time. It was a difficult.
Oh, okay.
You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Was there times that Cyle gave you a run for your money?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Was just now one of them?
What happened just now?
I think he forgot the last 30 minutes.
You're going to be okay, buddy. I will stop giving you a hard time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. An answered prayer for real.
So what are we talking about today?
So yes, today we are gonna go to a second apostle. Last week we started talking about Peter, and this week we're gonna talk about the loved apostle, John. Yeah. What are your thoughts on John?
The thing I really like about John is the fact that he was the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the fact that, he was the only one at the cross. He was the only apostle that was at the cross. Do you know that?
I did not know that.
How are you supposed to be the Bible lawyer and not know that? This guy. You knew that though, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
This is why he's your adversary.
That's why he's just better than me.
I am not better than you.
So what do you find most interesting about John, Cyle?
Oh, I have to say, honestly, when he was during the time of Romans, when Paul was writing, I think it was Acts. It was when Peter and John were going around. Mm-hmm. A lot of times the differences between Peter and John came out was John talked a lot less than Peter. I think John was better at listening. I think that was my favorite part, mostly because I'm not a really good listener. Mm-hmm. And I thought we did a study on that a while ago, and I thought that was a really good point. So when Peter would always be the one to talk, always get an answer, which is good, but John was always really willing to listen. I thought that was cool. That's probably my favorite thing, is probably his ability to listen.
So, like, out of all the apostles, which apostle was your favorite? Would you have to say?
Probably Peter.
Peter? Why Peter?
Oh, I mean, he's. I don't know. Every time I think of Peter, the first thing that comes to mind is it's a meme. Whenever you have the Spider-Man No Way Home thing, and it's Doc Ock comes out, and it's at the top of the caption, it's Jesus when he sees Peter, or no, when he sees
Simon.
Yeah, Simon, and it's just a Doc Ock going, "Hello, Peter."
Yeah.
I think Peter, really, because even though he does talk, he was always the one to talk. He was always he was the most outspoken. And I thought that was a really good point. I'm one that likes to stand up when I have a point, when I have an opinion. Mm-hmm. And Peter really did that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Josh?
No, I think Peter is. I was thinking about it the other day. I think Peter's character is really interesting. The fact that he always was the one who was the first one to stand up and talk and say something. But I think you made a great point with John saying how like he was a listener. And we see that out of all the gospels, the first three gospels record Jesus' words, but not as much as John. John, like, you can see chunks and chunks of Jesus talking and talking and talking. And so, especially like starting from the Last Supper, like chapter 13 all the way to 17, like you see Jesus talking. And I think that you saying that John listened more makes so much more sense as to why the other gospels, like the Last Supper is like one chapter or a part of a chapter, but with the Gospel of John, it's like 4 chapters.
Do you think that John listened more because he was the youngest?
Because he was overlooked?
No, the youngest.
Yeah. I mean, like,
I think he's leading the point. I think that's what he's.
because like since he's the youngest, like he would be overlooked.
That's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's why he was?
I think, like Paul talks about it in one of the Timothys. He says, "Don't let anyone look down upon you because of your youth." And I think that it was really common. I mean, it's still common in the Middle East to ignore someone's opinion because of their age, because age is knowledge. And so I do think that it might have been, the reason why he listened would have been because of his age. What do you think?
What do you think, Kyle? You agree?
I think his age possibly, but I also think it might have just been his character. I mean, age can be a factor, but I mean, even whenever they were still going about after Jesus, he was still considerably like that. So I think maybe there's a chance that because of his age, maybe he grew like that after doing that when he was so young that he just eventually.
Oh, I like the way you said that it was his character, because he's also known as the one that Jesus loved. And Jesus, he can see the heart. I mean, he understood where his heart was.
You know what I like is that, yes, he's the one who Jesus loved, but both him and his brother, James and John, have 2 stories in the Gospels that are like, what the heck are you doing? In the Gospel of Luke, it talks about like Jesus was passing by a Samaritan town and they wanted to go in, but the Samaritans didn't believe and they were like, get out of this town. And so James and John were like, should we cast down fire from heaven on them? And
the Sons of Thunder.
That's when they got called the Sons of Thunder, because they were quick to judge and they were like, nope.
They think that was their youth.
Yeah.
I think that was the youth. Youth in
them. Actually, there's a third story that I think about John.
Okay.
And John comes to Jesus and he says, should we rebuke this man because he's performing signs and wonders and preaching about your name? And he's like, Jesus is like, no, like, he who's with you, or like he who's with me is with you, or something like that. I forgot. Like, that person is not against us since he's going in Jesus' name. And so that's another story with John. It's interesting, the small stories about John.
Well, the other interesting thing with John is he was the only one that was not martyred.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was? Like, if you had a guess.
Because Jesus prophesied. Because Jesus prophesied at the end of the Gospel of John that if that man were to live forever, what is that to you? You follow me. Whenever he was talking to Peter. I think that's the reason why he wasn't killed, and God used him as the only apostle who was never martyred to reveal the end times, so that the church would know and understand what's going to happen in the end times. So I think God had a plan to leave one of them alive.
Yeah, but he didn't live forever. He ended up dying and going to heaven. So
yeah. Which the
he
Gospel of John also explains that. He says, like, the apostles thought that he was going to live forever, but Jesus never said that.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Well, he was exiled.
yeah, to the island of Patmos.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I do
Yeah.
think it's really cool though.
Well, he was also, Jesus also charged him to take care of his mother at the cross too. So do you think that has something to do with it as well?
At what age did Mary die?
I don't know. You tell me.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I didn't keep up with that.
What were you going to say, Kyle?
Oh, I was just going over. I believe it was during his exile. I'm not entirely sure on the timeline, but I think that was whenever he had the visions of Revelations.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a cool point that even though I don't know if we know for a fact, but we do think that they tried to boil him alive.
With oil.
What?
With oil.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But he survived, and so he was exiled. I think it was during that time that he had the visions of Revelations and wrote them all down. I think that might have been part of the reason why he was one of the only ones to actually, or was the only one to not be martyred. I think was due to that fact that God
like
had
a failed execution almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like a failed execution
Mhm.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to look at John's life and see the way that, like, all the Gospel of John and the letter of John, they almost have like so close, so similar like messages. Like John talks a lot about truth. He
Mhm.
talks a lot about love in both of his like letters and the gospel. And I find this really interesting. At the end of at the end of the Gospel of John, when Jesus is standing before Pilate, Jesus is talking to Pilate, and Pilate responds to him and says, "What is truth?" And he never like listens to an answer, or at least John doesn't give us an answer as to what Jesus had said to Pilate.
Well, Pilate walked away before Jesus
Yeah.
could say anything. He said,
Yeah.
"What is truth?" And he walked off.
He didn't want an answer.
Yeah, he didn't want the answer.
That's
he
true.
didn't want to know.
Yeah.
And I think that just shows you that you're going to get people like that in life. You know,
Mhm.
you're going to come across that where people want to argue with you, but they don't want to know the answer.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the sad part.
Yeah.
Because even Pilate was warned by his wife, you know, she
Not
had
to-
a
yeah.
dream, you know, not to, you know, condemn this man, you know,
Mhm.
keep your hands clean from it. So,
Yeah. I think it's interesting to see that that Pilate in the Passion of the Christ, they show us that Pilate actually didn't want to kill him, which is what the Gospels all say. Like Pilate didn't want to
Well,
kill
yeah,
him.
he didn't want them to condemn a man because there was no reason for it. He kept saying,
Yeah.
this man's done no wrong.
Mhm.
And they just kept saying,
Crucify him.
yeah, crucify him. It's like, I have to do something. I have to, I think it was give someone up.
well, that and his hands were tied too, because he couldn't afford another uprising, and they
Mhm.
knew it.
Yeah.
The priests knew he couldn't afford another uprising.
Yeah.
So they had him in a no-win spot for him, and they knew it,
Mhm.
and he knew it. So
Yeah. I think it's what do y'all think of the loved apostle? Like, why does John call himself the loved apostle, or the apostle, or the disciple who Jesus
didn't
loved?
Jesus love all the
Yeah.
apostles?
So what do you think? Why would John call himself that?
Why would John call himself?
Mm-hmm.
Or,
In the Gospel of John.
well, isn't God giving him the words to write?
Yeah.
So he's being led to write that way.
Why? Why do you think so?
I think the goal is to highlight his character. That's my belief on it when I always
Mhm.
read that, because I used
Well-
to look at it like a negative perspective. I used to look at it like picking favorites, kind of
Yeah,
like
kind of high-handed.
Yeah,
You know,
and
call
I-
yourself the loved one. I mean, it's bad enough you wrote the highlights of you beating Peter to the tomb.
Mhm. It's like but one beat the other.
What
And
love
the
that.
other disciple.
I think it
and
was,
Peter.
the highlighting the zeal that John had for him. Because when Christ came back and they're out at the boat, John said, "It's the Lord." You know, and he's with Peter, fishing? He says, it's the Lord. And plus John was in the inner circle too.
Yeah.
So, and then Jesus also entrusted John, the only one that didn't run, that showed up at the cross.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus entrusted his mother to him,
Yeah.
because you got to think, it was man and God, right? So he knew things. And I think he's the way he saw John's heart and the zeal that John had. But, he also had the immaturities too, because he was the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
He's practically just barely not a teenager.
Yeah.
If you think about it, he's pretty young.
I've heard that he calls himself that not out of pride, but actually out of humility, because he's talking about how much he's a sinner, and yet in spite of that, Christ still loved him a lot. And so not out of like, oh, hey, look at me, I'm the most favored disciple, but no, I'm loved in spite of my sin. And
I like that, actually. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That reminds me of that T-shirt that I used to have that said that Jesus loves you, but I'm his favorite.
You had a T-shirt like that?
I did. When I first became a Christian, I saw that T-shirt. It was at Walmart. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's happening."
I saw that at Walmart.
You still have it?
No, I wish I
man.
did. That thing would be, 12, 15 years old now.
Well, they're still selling some of those shirts at Walmart, because whenever I was going there to buy a shirt the other day, I saw
It was blue and white.
I don't know what color it was. I just remember wanting to buy it, and Bear was like,
But
no.
it said that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the difference, though. John didn't. I mean, you think John would have bought that?
Now, I
John
think out of
already knew.
I think out of humility, he would not have bought that.
But you saying Chad wasn't humble when he bought that?
I mean, John wrote it in the gospel, so.
He didn't say I'm his favorite.
Huh?
He didn't say I'm his favorite. He said the
disciple that he loved.
that he loved.
Right.
And I don't think it's out of pride, though. I think it's out of.
I don't think it's out of pride either. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That is a tough one. Do you think it was out of pride?
I don't think so. I mean, most of the stories in the Bible, when they represent, when they say something like that, I don't think it would be put in there for a negative context. I mean, we're supposed to support that, what he talks about in there.
Mm-hmm.
If it's out of pride, then I think it'd be bad if we supported it. Like when David, with his mishap with Bathsheba, if it was out of how like what he did was right, then we couldn't support that. But it talks about how it was wrong what he did. So I think if it's not talking about how wrong it is for what he wrote in there, I think it's a fair point. I think our interpretation of it could always be mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are your well, we're going to take a break, and after the break we're going to talk about what are your thoughts on the themes of the books of John, like cuz he highlights love a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that theme? So we're going to take a quick break, and after the break we're going to talk about the theme of the Gospel of John and the books of John, the letters of John. Stay with us, please. See you in a moment.
Do you enjoy programs like the one you are listening to today? These programs are made possible by the generous support of Spirit Radio underwriters. We invite you to consider underwriting Spirit Radio to help us to continue delivering quality, uplifting, and inspirational programming to our community. To learn more or to donate, visit spiritradio.fm. Thank you for your support. And now, back to Empowered Youth.
All right, welcome back, everyone. From the break. So we'll get straight to it. We were talking off air about where in 1 John it talks about love, and something really interesting caught my eye is that well, Kyle was saying it's in 1 John 4, but I'm going to keep that for him. I'm going to share a Bible verse from 1 John 3, verse 16. It says, "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters." And so I think it's really cool to see like we can understand what love is because of what Jesus did on the cross. There's something about sacrificial love. Why do you think John emphasized on sacrificial love being what love is? Like saying, this is how we know what love is.
Well, because there's none of self. You're not worried about you. You're worried about your brother. You're willing to, like Jesus did, you're willing to lay it all down. You're not living for the world. You're living for God at that point. Right. But I think that has a lot to do with the reason for, laying down your life. Right. Does it make sense? Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Kyle?
I think it has to do with, as you were talking about, it's lack of self. I mean, you could do something for yourself. You could do the exact same thing out of love or out of hate. I mean, you could kill somebody in self-defense, or you could save the world by doing it in war. There's different ways it happens. I mean, as he talked about Jesus' sacrifice, it's, as they talked about, I don't remember what verse it is, but there's no greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. I mean, that's word for word. It's verbatim for what Jesus did. He did it for all of us. And I mean, it takes a lot of willpower, but I mean, to go through the sacrifice that he did, not just to give up your life, but to live your entire life for everyone else. I mean, he lived his whole life for God. It wasn't just dying for him, it was living for him. I mean, I think that's sacrifice in itself. Doesn't just have to be laying down your life. It could be giving up time. It could be giving up anything in your life for other people, I think is love.
Yeah, amen to that.
See, I like, I know that you wanted to talk about 1 John 4, so I'm hoping this is not your verse. It's verse 12.
No, you got it.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is the one I like. It says, no one has seen God at any time. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love has been perfected in us. What do you think that means, Josh? I mean, what does that mean to you? That God abides in us.
I go back to the analogy of what Jesus says. I'm the vine and you're the branches. And every branch in him that does not bear fruit is cut down and thrown into fire. And then he says, abide in me and I in you. I think the way we can abide with God is by obviously spending time with him. And the more time that I spend with God, the more I'm gonna look like him. If I spend a lot of time with God, I'm gonna be more like I'll take characteristics that God shows. Well, the most important one is love. And the way he showed it to us was through the sacrifice of his son. But if we love God and we abide in him, out of that love will outflow love for others. And his love will make us complete. So
that's a great answer. You want to add to that?
I didn't have much to add. Mine was more of
what was your verse?
Yeah, 1 John 4, it's 4:7. I'm using NIV, but King James version, the New King James Version, says it a little bit differently. This one says, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love." And then I think New King James Version says, "God is that of love." But I like it says, "God is love." I asked, I think it was a Bible study out loud for my friends just a while ago. The question I asked it for this, and then I've asked it since then a couple of times. But can you define love? Is that possible? I mean, I thought about that, and it's really a good point that like love is God, really, because without God you can't really love, because if you don't have purpose outside of your life, then everything you do has to be done for your own self-interest. And so technically speaking, God is the only way to love. I thought that was a cool point that he says in this verse, God is love, because whoever does not know love does not know God.
Yeah, because love, I think, is so, I mean, they had so many different words for love when we were talking about that earlier. But it goes, I think there's a lot more to it. It's not so shallow. You know what I mean? It goes pretty deep, because it's the opposite of hate, obviously, is love. But it's also the opposite of pride. You're not doing out of selfish ambitions or anything like that. You're doing it selflessly. So in a way, it kind of encompasses, all the things, and loving.
Yeah. I think the word love, in our culture, in our day and time, is taken a lot of out of context, because like true, genuine love.
Well, I think it's used carelessly too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, I love my car. I love this cup.
I love tacos.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff.
It's thrown around so much. And it's sometimes I think it's like it's used in obligation too, with couples. That it's just, you have to say it. Why didn't you say I love you before you left? It's like it's obligation. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It says in verse 18 of chapter 3, it says, "Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." And I think that goes way further than just words. 'Cause words, like, it's so easy. It doesn't cost us anything to say a word, but action, it costs us time and effort and energy. And in truth, like, it costs us genuineness, but words are free. What do y'all think of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one thing to say it, but it's a whole nother thing to do it. It goes back to the old saying, actions are louder than words.
Yes, I agree.
It's like you say it, but what you're doing, your actions are showing me something different.
Mm-hmm.
They need to line up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard a story. I don't know how well known the story is, but it's a kid. I think he was really, really young, but he wanted to be a missionary. And he wanted to go over to Africa and help build churches. And he was too young to do it, I think. He was really, really young. But basically before he did, I think it was before he got to, the kid ended up dying. It was really sad, but his parents looked through his Bible. And it was, I think it was every single page was like, "I will live for you." And it was just that same statement written again and again and again and again. And at the end of it, it was like, "And I would," something about like, "and I would also die for you." And it was kind of goes both ways, but I thought it was a really good point that kid, the majority of what he focused on was living for God, not just dying for God. I think a lot of people were able to say that they could die for God, like they could give up their life, but could they give up their life of what they're living at the moment for God? I think is a really difficult task for a lot of people. But I thought it was a real good point because, saying it is one thing, but like genuinely doing it, saying giving up your life isn't just giving your soul, like the end of your life to God. It's giving your entire life to God. Presently, it's not just saying that when I die, I do it for you. It's when I live, I do it for you.
Yeah.
I really like that story though, because when people heard about it, they had a whole church. They ended up taking that Bible with them to the place the kid wanted to go, and they would just build churches. And that story was shared, and it was I don't remember exactly where it was, but
that was a long time ago. I remember that story. It inspired a lot of people, and it ignited a fire and a passion in a lot of people too. So
yeah.
I'm fuzzy on the details though.
Yeah, no, I think I might have missed. I might have said some wrong stuff. Might have missed some stuff, but it was a very cool story.
Gotta Google it. Gotta Google it.
Yeah.
To remember.
Yeah, I've heard of this story before. I think it might have been Egypt. I'm not sure though.
Maybe I think that might have been
in Africa. But I think it's easy for a person to say, "I will give everything," and then quickly turn from that. And we see that in the parable of the sower, like the ones who hear the word and it's in shallow soil and it's a rocky ground, and then they spring and then they wither away quickly because the worries of life take them away. I think so too. But you're talking about this one kid who passed away well, I don't know how he passed away.
Yeah, I don't remember how it was how he passed.
But he said he would die for Jesus. It's okay. But the apostles literally died for Jesus.
Martyr.
And we were talking about this earlier. all but John didn't. Do you think John would have felt a different way because of that?
Because of what?
Because he didn't die like the same way his friends.
He didn't die currently.
Well, I mean, John's story is a little more unique than the rest of the disciples.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. I mean, he wrote the last book.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he got to see what our future is. You know, he also wrote the the three epistles for John too. His is also the last gospel written. You know, so I think John's a little bit more unique in that situation. So, I mean, the fact that he's on an island and that's where he's writing Revelations. I mean, I just think John's story's a little bit more unique. Right?
Yeah, than the others. Because
I think that, Jesus's comment to Peter is a little bit more deep, but, the ultimate reason why he wasn't martyred, I mean, it's not for us to know. Otherwise it would plainly state it. I would like to think, but yeah, I think part of it, is because of the revelations.
Yeah.
I think that's a big piece to it. I could be wrong, but
that's actually what I agree with too. I don't know obviously why, but I think that
because I mean, realistically, all we can do is really speculate.
Yeah. No proof on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, as we conclude this episode, what do you learn from the life of John? Love.
That's my answer. You guys come up with a completely different one that has nothing to do with love.
Sacrifice.
Okay. Well, expand on those ideas.
Yeah, without using love.
Well, you expand first. No, I'll go. I really think the idea of the sacrifice of John being the only one at the cross, seeing Jesus, because I didn't even know that fact, which kind of makes me feel sad that I didn't know that and you guys did. But I think it's really cool that, I mean, it's different whenever you hear about the stories. I mean, you hear stories about people that they dislike abortion, but they don't have enough drive or motivation to do anything about it a lot of times.
Yeah.
Until they heard stories of when they see it happen, suddenly like everything just changes.
Yeah, it's like once you go through it and you experience it, then instead of hearing about it, you have to experience it.
Because your perspective and your point of view has changed. Yeah. And I think that's a cool point that like John, I mean, he witnessed pure sacrifice. I mean,
well, I think too that, I mean, my opinion, okay, I could be wrong again. But I think that John was the first one that understood the love piece. And that's what made Jesus love him so much. I mean, it's not like he didn't love the other ones. I mean, he absolutely loved all of his disciples. But the one that he loved, because I think he saw John's heart, John understood that. When you just reading in the epistles, like the first stuff in 1 John, when you're reading that and how he highlights love, like he got it. He understood it.
Yeah.
And I just, part of me thinks that's why. So, what do you think? Am I off base?
No.
No, I think it's good.
I think, what you're saying is true.
I mean, he wrote the most about love, so I think he must have understood it.
Yeah, he definitely understood it.
What me and Kyle really want to know, Josh.
John.
The J's. What did you get out of it? And you can't use love or sacrifice. Nope. So go.
I think listening, like as soon as y'all said it, it clicked. Everything clicked in my head. James writes, "Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger." And I feel like one of my characteristics is I'm quick to speak, and I do feel like it's really interesting to see how John is like slow to speak and quick to listen, and I just want to be in that moment watching John interact with Jesus and seeing how Jesus would be teaching and John would be taking notes, and writing down everything Jesus said. I think that would have been cool to see and watch and learn from it.
Yeah, that would have been something. That would have really been something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, any last comments?
I was going to add one last thing. I think it's a good point on the listening thing is I think it was Mary and Martha. The story of when I believe it's was it Martha that was trying to do?
Yeah, that she was upset because Mary was
listening to Jesus,
and
Jesus was talking about how thankful she was there to listen. That she had the priorities right, and I thought that's a really good point on John's listening aspect. John listened, and Jesus probably loved him a lot for that.
Yeah. Amen to that. Well, as we end every show, we remind you that we hear.
Hey, out of curiosity now, before we go, what are we gonna be talking about next week?
Oh,
yeah, I can give a teaser.
Yeah, next week we will be talking about John's brother, James, the Apostle James. So we appreciate that y'all are listening. We're glad that y'all are here with us. We love you here from Studio 1229J, as Rob calls it. And we'll see you again next week. See ya.